Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really plunging into the future of quantity surveying. We've got a fantastic source to guide us. It's an article distilling, 35 years of practice and mentoring?
That's right. And our mission here, our goal in this deep dive is really to cut through the noise. We want to pull out the most important insights, give you a strategic view of how the QS profession is changing and crucially, how you can navigate it.
Because the change is just, well, it's incredible right now, isn't it? You've
Yeah.
got digital disruption hitting everything,
Mhm.
big pushes on sustainability, new ways projects are delivered.
Yeah, it's fundamentally reshaping what a quantity surveyor actually does.
Right.
The core value, okay, bringing that commercial certainty to complex projects, that's always going to be vital.
Always.
But how we deliver that value, the tools, the knowledge base, that's what's transforming and really fast. The article makes a really strong point. CPD, continuous professional development. It's not just checking a box anymore.
No, it feels much more fundamental, like existential almost.
Yeah.
The article talks about this idea I really liked, learning velocity.
Ah, yes.
That ability to just soak up and use new knowledge quickly. That's the competitive edge now.
It really is. The source suggests clients aren't just looking at a static CV anymore.
They're hiring for that potential, that speed.
Precisely. That capacity to learn and adapt.
Mhm.
Because the tech waves, the new requirements, they're just coming faster and faster.
Okay, so let's unpack this evolution. The article frames it as the QS shifting from maybe a traditional cost controller
Yeah.
to something more like a data strategist.
That's a really good way to put it. I mean, the
Mhm.
classic deliverables, your BOQs, valuations, final accounts, they still matter. Of course they do.
Sure.
But the sheer volume and importantly, the types of data feeding into those, it's just exploded.
So what kinds of new data are we talking about here? Give us some examples.
Okay, so think about linking 4D BIM data, that's the model plus the program schedule.
Yeah, the time element.
Exactly. Linking that directly to the 5D cost model. So now your cost isn't just a number, it's tied dynamically to the construction sequence.
Okay.
Or using reality capture, scanning a site with LiDAR or drones.
Yeah, getting those point clouds.
Right. You use that data for really accurate clash detection or even to quickly measure progress for interim payments. And increasingly, linking live procurement analytics. So pulling in real-time market prices
Okay.
for materials directly into your cost plans.
So you get much more dynamic insights.
Near real-time, yeah. It's moving away from just measuring static drawings.
It's about integrating all these different digital streams.
Precisely. And this naturally pulls the QS much earlier into the project lifecycle.
How so?
Well, you're now getting involved right at the feasibility stage. You're not just costing the basic building, you might be embedding carbon budgets.
Right at the start.
Yeah. Or even scoring different options based on social value metrics, all before detailed design really kicks off.
And it extends beyond completion, too.
Absolutely. Think about creating digital twin cost libraries. This helps clients predict maintenance costs long after handover. It stretches the QS influence across the entire asset life.
Fascinating. So if data is the thread running through all this, what are the essential digital skills QSs need now? The article digs into this.
Okay, number one, without a doubt, is BIM mastery. But it's evolving. It's not just basic 3D modeling anymore.
It's more advanced levels, like level 3 BIM.
Yeah, and understanding the international standard, ISO 19650, that's becoming the benchmark.
So that means knowing the authoring tools, Revit, ArchiCAD, the usual suspects.
Sure, but critically also the tools that let you interrogate those models for cost information.
Like CostX or Navisworks.
Exactly, CostX, Navisworks, ITWO tools designed for 5D BIM. And it's not just the software, it's about data governance.
What do you mean by governance?
Understanding the common data environment, the CDE. Basically, the rules of the road for how everyone on the project shares information.
Naming conventions, how data is structured.
Yeah, information containers, doing quality checks on the combined models, knowing the practical procedures, the MPDTs, DEPs, MIDPs that make BIM actually work on a complex project.
And the article gives some solid CPD actions here, doesn't it? Like taking an ISO 19650 course.
Yes, get the foundations. But crucially, it also suggests leading a pilot project.
Actually trying it out.
Exactly. Use model-based takeoff on a real job. Track the KPIs. How much time did it save? Did accuracy improve?
Prove the value.
That's how you demonstrate the benefit.
Okay, beyond BIM, the article mentions cloud collaboration and API ecosystems. Sounds a bit techy.
It can sound that way, but the core idea is pretty straightforward. APIs are just Well, they're like translators between different software.
Software connectors.
Yeah, essentially. They let your QS tools talk to other project platforms.
Hmm.
The value is understanding how they can connect.
So linking your cost software to, say, Primavera P6 for scheduling.
Perfect example. Or pulling project financial data into a Power BI dashboard for really clear client reporting.
Got it.
You don't necessarily need to become a coder yourself,
Ew.
but understanding the basics, knowing what's possible, that lets you brief developers properly. Or maybe even use simpler tools like Power Automate to automate some tasks yourself, linking Excel to something else, for example.
Making the tools work smarter together.
That's the goal.
Now, with all this data flying around, the article rightly flags cybersecurity and data ethics. That seems pretty crucial.
Oh, absolutely essential. Think about what's in our cost models, sensitive tender data, commercial strategies.
Highly confidential stuff.
Exactly. So understanding information security basics is non-negotiable. Things like ISO 27001 principles, role-based access controls, making sure only the right people see the right data.
And having clear rules about how long you keep data?
Yes, clear data retention policies. It's all about mitigating the risk of breaches and protecting both your firm and your client.
Yeah, the liabilities could be huge.
Huge. Data integrity and security have to be paramount.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. AI, artificial intelligence. How's that starting to play out in the QS world, according to the source?
It's emerging in a few interesting areas. One big one is in cost prediction engines.
How does that work?
Well, it could involve using probabilistic methods, like Monte Carlo simulations, running thousands of scenarios based on past data to understand the likely range of costs, not just a single number.
Giving you a better sense of risk.
Right. Or using machine learning models, regression models, typically.
Yes.
These can look for really complex patterns in historical project data.
Using lots of variables.
Yeah, maybe 20, 30 different factors, location, building type, ground conditions, time of year, to generate an early stage parametric cost estimate much, much faster than a human could manually.
Wow.
And another area is NLP, natural language processing.
AI that understands text.
Exactly. It's being used to analyze contracts. Imagine an AI scanning a bespoke contract to flag potentially risky clauses or comparing it quickly against a standard form like FIDI or NEC to spot deviations.
That could be a massive time saver compared to manual reviews.
Huge. But the practical tip from the article is really important here.
Which is?
Start simple. Don't try to boil the ocean. Maybe take your own firm's past project data and try training a basic model yourself first. Just get a feel for it. See what it can and can't do before you invest heavily.
Good advice. And AI is also being used for progress valuations. That sounds quite futuristic.
It does, but it's happening. You combine drone photography, photogrammetry with computer vision AI.
Okay.
The AI can then analyze the images to automatically quantify progress on site. Things like how much earthwork has been moved or how many facade panels are installed.
So the AI does the measurement.
It does the initial quantification, yeah. But then, and this is key, the QS reviews it, validates it, checks for anomalies.
So it speeds things up, but the human expertise, the judgment, is still critical.
Absolutely. It's an assistant, a tool, not a replacement.
Hmm.
Which brings us to another really crucial point the article raises. Ethics and explainability.
Ah, the black box problem.
Exactly. If you use an AI to generate a cost estimate or evaluation figure, especially if it might end up in a dispute.
You can't just say, the AI did it.
Precisely. You need to be able to explain how it reached that conclusion. This is where explainable AI or XAI comes in.
So what does that look like in practice?
It means the AI needs to provide outputs that show it's working. Things like feature importance charts, showing which data points most influence the result, confidence intervals around its predictions, and crucially, the lineage of the training data. Where did the information it learned from actually come from?
You need that transparency to be able to stand over the figures?
Totally. You need to be able to defend them, potentially in arbitration or court.
Makes complete sense. Okay, moving beyond the digital side, another massive area highlighted is sustainability. This is becoming central, isn't it?
It's absolutely non-negotiable now. We as QSs have to integrate embodied carbon economics into our core cost advice.
Embodied carbon, that's the carbon footprint of the materials and construction process itself.
Exactly. It means understanding the whole life cycle, based on standards like EN 15978. From extracting raw materials, A1, A3, transport, construction, A4, A5, then the use phase, B modules, and finally end of life, C modules, and potential reuse recycling benefits, Module D.
And using specific carbon factor databases to get the numbers.
Yes, things like the ICE database, EC3, one-click LCA, these provide the carbon footprint data for different materials and processes.
And the article mentions shattered pricing. What's that?
It's a way to put a monetary value on carbon emissions within your cost analysis. You assign a cost per ton of CO2.
Why do that?
It helps clients see the financial case for choosing lower carbon options, even if they cost a bit more upfront. It shifts the conversation towards whole life value, not just capital cost.
So it's changing that definition of value for money.
Completely changing it. And alongside carbon, you need fluency in the main green building certification frameworks.
LEED, BREEAM.
Well, Estidama in the Gulf region. QSs are increasingly tasked with specific deliverables for these schemes.
Like what kind of deliverables?
Things like preparing detailed life cycle costing, LCC studies, verifying the environmental product declarations, EPDs, that manufacturers provide for their materials, ensuring traceability for sustainably sourced timber, for example.
It's adding another layer to the QS role.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And linked to this is the whole idea of the circular economy that's really gaining traction.
Moving away from just demolishing buildings at the end of their life.
Exactly. Thinking less about demolition cost and more about deconstruction value. What materials can be salvaged? Can modular components be reused on another project?
Right.
The article makes a pretty bold statement here. It says understanding things like material passport databases.
Databases that track what's actually in a building.
Yes, an inventory of materials and components and their potential for reuse. The article argues that knowing how to use these is becoming as crucial for a QS as knowing traditional measurement rules like NRM.
Wow, that is a big shift in thinking.
It really is.
Okay, so we've covered a lot. The evolving role, digital tools, AI, sustainability. These are huge topics. Let's bring it back to the listener. Why is knowing all this stuff about the future so important for you right now?
Because the article is crystal clear. These aren't just theoretical trends happening somewhere else.
This is the reality now.
This is the reality. These are the skills you need, not just to kind of keep your head above water, but actually to advance your career.
Yeah.
In a market that values that knowledge velocity we talked about, these changes are fundamentally resetting expectations.
Resetting what clients expect, what employers are looking for.
Precisely. If you don't adapt, you risk getting left behind.
Okay, so how do you actually do that? How do you build what the article calls this personal, continuous professional development engine? Gives it a practical framework.
It does. It starts with knowing your baseline, the formal CPE requirements from your professional body, like RICS needing 20 hours a year, plus ethics, CIOB's reflective logs, ACE recertification, and so on.
But the real key is going beyond just ticking that box.
Right.
Building a proper personal plan.
Step 1. Do a skill gap audit. Honestly, assess where your skills are now versus where you need them to be for the roles you want, considering where the market is heading.
Be honest with yourself.
Totally. Step 2. Set SMART learning objectives. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound.
Can you give that example from the article again? It was a good one.
Yeah, it was something like, within the next 12 months, I will produce 3 5D model-based cost plans, achieving a variance of less than 3% compared to traditional methods on similar projects. So very specific, very measurable.
Okay. Step 3.
Build a balanced portfolio. Don't just focus on technical stuff, although that's key. The suggestion is maybe 60% technical skills, 25% managerial or leadership skills, and 15% broader thought leadership understanding industry trends, the bigger picture.
Right. Covering all bases. And the last step.
Step 4 is crucial. Quarterly reflection. Regularly ask yourself, did that course I took or that skill I practiced actually make a difference?
Did it add value?
Yeah. Did it save time? Improve accuracy? Help win work? Create billable value? If not, maybe you need to adjust your learning focus for the next quarter. Make your CPD effective, not just busy work.
That makes sense. The article also mentions micro-credentials and digital badges. Are these becoming more important?
They really are. Think of them as small, verifiable tokens, proving you've mastered a specific skill or completed a particular course module. Often from universities via platforms like Coursera or edX, or directly from professional bodies like RICS.
And recruiters are noticing these?
Increasingly, yes.
Yeah.
They're easily shareable on profiles like LinkedIn, and they allow employers to quickly see evidence of very specific up-to-date competencies. They're stackable proof of your learning journey.
A tangible way to show you have that knowledge velocity.
Exactly. And beyond micro-credentials, the article briefly touches on more significant strategic certifications.
Bigger qualifications.
Yeah, things that really deepen your expertise in a specific domain, like getting PMP or Prince2 certified for project management and controls.
Or feet neck qualifications for contract and dispute expertise.
Right, or AC's Certified Cost Professional, CCP, for high-level cost and risk management. Then you've got the sustainability ones, Lead AP, Bream Assessor, Well AP, and digital ones like RICS BIM certifications or Building Smart qualifications.
So you can choose certifications that strategically build on each other.
Yeah, to develop a real specialism.
Now, we've talked a lot about technical and digital skills, but the article also really emphasizes high-impact soft skills. These are just as vital.
Maybe even more so as you become more senior. The role is shifting. Being technically brilliant isn't enough anymore.
So what kind of soft skills are we talking about?
Well, data storytelling is a big one. You've got all this data, these dashboards. Can you translate that complexity into a clear, compelling narrative for decision makers? Can you explain what it means and what should be done?
Crucial for influencing clients or boards?
Absolutely. Then there's negotiation psychology. Understanding things like anchoring, BATNA, best alternative to a negotiated agreement, reading situations, finding win-wins, essential for handling contracts, variations, claims.
Avoiding disputes where possible.
Exactly. Stakeholder facilitation is another. Being able to bring diverse groups together, designers, contractors, specialists, the client, and guide them effectively. Whether it's in a workshop or an agile-style sprint review.
Keeping everyone aligned.
Yes. And finally, leadership and coaching. As the QS moves towards being more of a commercial strategist, you need to be able to guide, mentor, and influence the wider project team on commercial matters.
It's a much broader remit.
Much broader.
So, loads of skills needed. Where do people actually go to learn all this? The article lists some learning pathways and resources.
Yeah, there are lots of options. You've got formal education routes, maybe a master's in digital construction or a postgraduate certificate in sustainable value engineering.
Okay, the university path.
Or more flexible online options. MOOC's massive open online courses and boot camps. Platforms like edX, Coursera, Udemy have tons of relevant courses.
The article mentions specific ones.
Yeah, things like AI in construction on edX, sustainable construction on Coursera, or practical software training like Navisworks for 5D on Udemy. Lots out there.
And what about learning from peers?
Hugely important. Communities of practice. Joining specialist groups run by bodies like RICS, like their dispute resolution groups, or independent forums like Women in BIM, the Carbon Leadership Forum.
Why are they so valuable?
You get peer review, you hear about best practices, job opportunities, regulatory changes firsthand. It's invaluable for staying current and connected.
Right. Now, to make all this concrete, the article uses a really good case study, a hospital project in Abu Dhabi.
Yes, it's a great example of putting these skills into practice and showing the results. They ran specific pilot projects.
What did they find?
Well, using a BIM 5D estimating process, they slashed the time needed for pre-contract budgeting. Took it from about 4 weeks down to just 10 days.
Wow, that's a huge saving. And accuracy.
Accuracy was impressive too, within about 2%. Then they used drones and AI for progress valuations.
The drone photogrammetry stuff?
Exactly. That cut the QS time spent physically measuring on-site by over 50%. 55%, I think it was.
Again, massive efficiency gain.
Huge. And they also used embodied carbon analysis as an upsell.
How did that work?
They analyzed a higher spec, lower carbon facade option. They demonstrated through a life cycle costing analysis that while it cost about 6% more upfront, it had a net present value payback within 12 years due to operational savings and potentially higher asset value.
And the client bought it.
They did. The analysis convinced the board to make that investment in sustainability. It shows how these skills create real, tangible financial value.
And the article mentioned success factors for these pilots.
Yeah, critical things like running early stakeholder workshops to get buy-in, maintaining transparent risk registers, and really important, meticulously documenting the lessons learned so they could scale the successes.
So it's not just the tech, it's the process around it.
Absolutely. Good process, good communication are essential.
Okay, wrapping up, the article gives a little peek into the future outlook.
Yeah.
What might be next, say 2025 to 2030?
Some interesting possibilities. Things like generative design tools linked directly to real-time cost databases. Imagine AI helping architects explore hundreds of design options with instant cost implications shown.
That would change design development significantly.
Massively. Also, the growing impact of carbon pricing legislation, things like the EU's Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, CBAM, or green funding initiatives in the GCC that will make carbon costing even more critical.
And more futuristic stuff?
Well, quantum computing for complex optimization problems is being prototyped. though that's likely further out for mainstream QS work.
Still very early days.
Very. And maybe things like global CPD microledgers using blockchain for secure, instant verification of skills and credentials across borders.
Interesting. So it paints a picture of continued rapid evolution.
Definitely. The pace isn't slowing down.
So let's try and summarize the core message from this whole deep dive based on the source.
I think the fundamental point is this. The core value proposition of a quantity surveyor, delivering that commercial certainty, that financial control on complex projects that underlying purpose endures, it's as important as ever.
But
But the tools, the knowledge, the actual skill set you need to deliver that value effectively, that is changing incredibly fast. Faster than many in the profession perhaps realize.
And the article's conclusion is quite powerful, isn't it? It says QSs who are strategic about their professional development
Yeah, who become fluent in BIM, AI, sustainability.
and who cultivate those high-impact soft skills, the leadership qualities.
They won't just manage to stay relevant in this changing landscape.
They'll become
They'll become indispensable architects of value in the built environment.
indispensable architects of value. I like that. That's a really strong vision for the future QS role. So reflecting on everything we've unpacked today, the data shift, the tech, the green focus, that crucial learning velocity, here's a final thought for you listening. What specific skill, just one to start, will you prioritize developing first to make sure you stay ahead of that curve?